I'm Kathy. I am the founder or co-founder of Press Club. We help founders land press. As of right now, we're actually building a general external communications agent, starting with press. I worked at IBM, Dropbox, and then Snorkel AI. I'm very bullish on design founders in general. I think more designers in general should be founders. So I'm honestly really excited for the next wave of designers turning entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, founders. I think in general, designers just need to up their marketing and sales. I will end with this quote: life will meet you at the level of your audacity.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Now Next. My name is Kia, host and producer of Now Next. In this episode, I'm going to talk with Kathy, co-founder of Press Club and a designer who've worked in IBM and Dropbox previously. We're going to talk about how she became a designer, and she's going to share her experience about finding job in big companies such as Dropbox. She's going to explain how important cold outreaching is, and we're going to talk about Press Club.
I literally just woke up. This is like 30 minutes before my normal wake up time. So
I'm sorry for that.
good.
There's a time gap between me and
Oh,
you.
I know. It's like the end of the day for you.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, all good.
Good. How's the weather there? Because today we had a very lovely snowy day here in place
Oh my
I'm living.
God. I haven't seen snow at all this year. It's been good. I'm in San Francisco.
San Francisco.
It's actually been like consecutive rainy days. So yeah, go figure. But I think starting today or tomorrow, it's going to be back to sunny California weather, what we're used to. So I'm excited. Yeah.
Yeah, I miss that. But I also enjoy this snowy weather, I
Yeah. Is
have
it a
to
lot of
say.
snow over there?
To be honest, I also, it's the first time I see such a snow in Germany for last 10 years, I would say,
Yeah.
like since I arrived to Germany. And it's kind of a surprising weather condition, but I enjoy it. Yeah.
You said you arrived in Germany 10 years ago?
Yeah, I am originally from Iran.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So, yeah, I just come abroad to study and then kind of stayed in Germany working and continue to live. Yeah. So maybe before we get deeper into our talk, I would like you to introduce yourself very quickly with a couple of words. Who are you, Katie?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or sorry,
So
I should say Kathy. Am I right?
yeah, Kathy. Yeah, I'm Kathy. I am the founder or co-founder of Press Club. We help founders land press. Um, as of right now, we're actually building a general external communications agent, starting with press. I am a designer by training. I worked at IBM, Dropbox, and then Snorkel AI, and then quit that job 6 months ago now to start my own company. So I'm very bullish on design founders in general. I think more designers in general should be founders. So I'm honestly really excited for the next wave of designers turning entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, founders.
Yeah, actually, that's a topic I would like to talk with you about it because, I was scrolling one day my LinkedIn and I saw one video from you. That was the
Yeah.
day that I actually reached out to you. The video was about
Yeah.
how you think about the designers who are shifting toward entrepreneur or being a founder, basically. And you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned a couple of points there that I found it very interesting, and I could understand myself. Like I had empathy to what you're telling there. So, but yeah, we will get back to that deeper. I would like to
Yeah. For
talk
sure.
about it. But yeah, so before you found your business, I would say
Mm-hmm.
you were a product designer,
I was,
not
yes.
UX UI designer, but product designer. I just want to very quickly ask you, what is the difference between product designer or, I don't know, UX UI designer?
Yeah. I remember there was nowadays not so much as much of a controversy or like back and forth between these two terms. But back in the day, I remember seeing a lot of discussion and like LinkedIn posts around what constitutes a UX UI designer, what constitutes a product designer. Honestly, I think most of the time, designers nowadays are product designers, but basically the distinction I would make is UX UI is more well, product designer is more end to end. It's you're also responsible for business, for strategy, and being very collaborative with the product manager and the engineers. Whereas UX UI is more what you would think of like the traditional, I think what non-designers think of the traditional design discipline. But product designer is just like on top, like a wrapper on top of all of that, and the business strategy and collaboration and understanding how to talk to product managers and engineers.
I totally agree with you. Yeah. Um, just maybe one step before you become a product designer, because I was checking also your the field of your studies,
Yeah.
and I found kind of interesting that how you switched there in between different fields. How did you end up becoming a designer?
Yeah, so actually, it was super long-winded. So when I was in college, I thought about all these different majors, and I eventually settled into pre-law, because I had always enjoyed the humanities over the sciences. And, actually, for context, my whole family is in healthcare. And so I kind of pushed back on that. And I was like, they, of course, wanted me to be a doctor, every immigrant's American dream. And I was like, oh, I'm not doing that. I don't know what I'm doing, but I know what I'm not doing, which is being a doctor and going into pre-med. So I decided to do pre-law, which was also acceptable in my mom and dad's eyes. But then eventually, once I got to junior year, I had a little bit of what I call an academic identity crisis. I was thinking about, oh man, like my major was China and Asia Pacific Studies. And I was like, oh man, a lot of people in my major either go into government or think tank, or law school and eventually becoming a lawyer. And I was like, man, if I really think about it, I don't love reading and writing that much to spend 80 hours a week on it. And I also just I don't necessarily have an intrinsic interest to go into public policy or into a think tank. So I was like, oh shoot, maybe I should figure out what I actually want to do in life. And so I actually decided junior year to pursue computer science as a major, which is a pretty bold decision because I didn't take any computer science classes. And when you're a student at that time in life, like junior, senior year, it's very hard to go against the pressure to not graduate on time. And I was hell bent on graduating on time because like you want to be at the same place as your friends, right? And I also being a little bit stubborn, I was like, I'm not going to consult anybody. I'm going to just take all the CS classes that I need to in a year and a half and graduate with a CS major. And it was indeed the one of the worst, actually, it was the worst semester of my life. I remember I took 5 computer science classes in one semester. And I didn't realize that's not what you're supposed to do. Again, I didn't consult anybody. I was just hell bent on graduating on time. And I took 5 CS classes. And I remember sitting in office hours for like 8 hours straight one day. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, what am I doing with my life? Like, this was pre ChatGPT, right? This is back in 2017, 2018, 2019. And yeah, if ChatGPT had been around, maybe it would have been a different story. But yeah, I just didn't have the community. So it was really tough. It was really difficult for me. But actually, the funny thing is, the nice part about being a computer science major at Cornell is, and I'm sure this is the case for a lot of schools, but obviously my experience is at Cornell, we called it. So the nice thing is, a lot of companies come to Cornell on campus to recruit computer science students. And what's nice about that is there's a lot of free food. And at Cornell, we literally called it the CS meal plan, because you could literally go for a week straight without buying any groceries, and just go to all these
And that's a
recruiting.
big deal, huh?
Yeah, it was almost like formalized. Like there's like a list of like these are all the events you can go to, right? Back then we used Facebook events. So I remember going to like all these events just for literally just for the free food. And one of the events, it was a senior talk um, put on by the Computer Science Undergrad Association. And I remember going literally just for the free pizza. I was like, I'm here for my dinner. I'll participate in the event, obviously, but I'm just here for dinner. And I remember sitting there. I remember the exact room. I was sitting there and the one of the seniors was talking. He was like, "Oh man, I had a trash GPA," and I was like, "Oh, I relate to that." But he was a computer science major, but he ended up interning as a UX design intern at BuzzFeed. And I was like, "Oh, that is like the coolest thing ever, right? Design, or UX design specifically."
So that
And
was the
I think,
first time that you got exposed to term UX, basically.
yeah, yeah, basically. I mean,
Mm.
I think I had heard of other people. I had heard like UX design as a term floating around, but I don't think it truly struck me until that moment. I would count that moment as when I discovered UX design. Um, and so I was like, holy crap, like that's what I want to do. And I just had a light bulb moment,
But what
sitting
was the
there
most
eating my
interesting thing?
about UX design.
Yeah, exactly.
In that moment.
What was the thing that grabbed your attention? Like, as you mentioned, it
Yeah.
clicked.
I think it was the fact that it activated my left brain and my right brain. I think I am naturally a very analytical and logical person, but I also at heart am very creative. As a kid, I loved drawing, I loved writing. I had a gravitation towards the arts, towards humanities, like I said before, right? And I think as a I had always seen growing up in an Asian immigrant household, it was always the like starving artist stereotype. I had always like linked being an artist or in the creative industry to, oh, that means you have to sacrifice or you won't be able to have a like financially lucrative life. So because I had always linked those two, I had never even considered pursuing something creative. And the moment that I realized that actually that's not true, being a creative and making money are not mutually exclusive, then I was like all in, right? So I think that that was the real reason why it just immediately clicked for me.
I see. Basically, you realize that you can be creative and still earn some money, and why not, huh? That's something you
Yeah.
like it, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's why I went into computer science. I don't think my brain was built to do programming, but I went into it because I was like, I know that it'll be a financially stable job, but I don't think the passion was there. UX design allowed me to stay in tech and be, like you said, be financially stable, but like basically pursue the interest that I've always had naturally.
I can really relate to that because it was also the way that I kind of went toward the design. Like, I was
Yeah.
more into art, but as you mentioned, I
Hmm.
guess uh, if you want to have a stable financial situation, and if you want to choose art, then you might have some big challenges in your life. I'm not talking about this that the artist cannot live properly, but it's more difficult and more
Yeah.
challenging, of course. But the UX, or in general, like design in this term, is something which, like, creativity is a part of it. It's not all; it's a part, and therefore you can do kind of something that you like, and of course live with that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
yeah, you mentioned that you get exposed to the world of UX and then you get interested into
Hmm.
it. How it becomes serious? Like, you finish your study, or right
Yeah.
when, like, you were still studying and then started to work? How did you get into the professional world?
Yeah. So, it's one thing to make the decision, like you said, it's another to actually execute on it. And I think I've gotten a lot of people have asked me, like, how did you actually end up breaking into design, right? Because these days it's insanely hard. So just caveat like this, like mind you, this was back in 2018, 2019, which I think were like really good years for design, right? So anyway, so I made the decision in my end of my junior year. And then funnily enough, like my major, China and Asia Pacific Studies, it requires you to study abroad. So I actually had a semester where I didn't do any design at all. I actually ended up going to Peking University and living there on campus in Beijing. So that was a fun experience. Definitely really cool, like being in college and having that as a graduation requirement. But anyways, that semester in terms of UX design, I basically did nothing. But I basically so that was my senior year now, right? And so once I came back for my last semester in college, I normally like my friends, they were just enjoying their senior year. At this point, you're taking the easiest classes, right? And in Ithaca, it's spring, you're going on wine tours, right? You're hanging out with your friends, going to your favorite places. I, on the other hand, was doing hackathon after hackathon. I was sleeping at the random schools on the floors, right? You know how hackathons are 24, 48 hours for students. Um, and that's actually, I kind of got the hang. I won my first hackathon. That was a huge milestone moment for me. And through these hackathons was how I was able to meet somebody from GSK, the pharmaceutical company, and they were upping their digital tech program. And so that's actually how I landed my first internship with GSK in February of 2018. And I remember when I landed that job, I had no idea what I was getting into. I spent a summer in Philly. To date, one of the best summers of my life. Is Philly is just so fun. And so I remember being an intern at GSK. I had a great mentor, by the way. My manager, he was like, what? Because the team was very small, actually. It was basically the founding team of digital tech. So there was basically like nobody that we knew of before us. So we were pretty much starting from scratch. And he was like, what do you want to get out of this? And I was like, being just very straightforward and blunt, like as a student, I'm looking for a case study, right? And so I told him that. And obviously, like I'm passionate about design as a career. And he literally I remember on the whiteboard, he wrote out, okay, this is the traditional design process. We can basically help get you everything from ideation, um, user research, user testing, prototyping. Like, let's get you through all of that week by week. So he basically drew out like a personal plan for me. That was really helpful. And I also remember just sitting there, I was having so much fun and I was like, holy crap, I literally cannot believe that I'm getting paid to do design. Like that was so wild to me. And the pay was like, I don't know, like $25 an hour. But even then, I was like, I can't believe somebody's even like paying me in general to do design. And then after GSK, I ended up doing grad school. I did a master's at Cornell, and I wasn't doing it to just do the master's. I was mainly doing it to buy time, because I was like, I just don't think I'm ready. Just after a single internship, I didn't think I was ready to go full time. But October of that year was when I was interviewing seriously with companies, and I ended up getting an offer from IBM. And same thing, I saw the numbers on the offer letter, and I was like, holy crap, like 6 figures. That is wild, right? Those were crazy numbers for me. And so I was just very thankful. And I think that I definitely hustled, right? Like nobody wants to be doing hackathon after hackathon. But I also will acknowledge like 2018, 2019, those were like pretty good years to be a
Yeah,
designer,
indeed,
especially
indeed. It's very interesting because I was talking also with Jack Michel in another episode, and he
yeah.
also had a similar experience. He was saying that, yeah, I always like to talk about things and give my opinion about the things, and I didn't know that I can get paid for that until I got exposed to the design. Like if I say, hey, this should be like that, or I can solve this problem like this, and then I realize,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, that can also that's a business, that's a work. So I guess many people have a similar experience. Saying your story, I want to ask you one thing. Because you did a lot, huh? It's not just by luck that you ended up in that kind of, as you mentioned, the first job, which we call it IBM. I guess the IBM was the first company that you
Yeah.
officially worked. You mentioned attending to many hackathon. You mentioned mentorship. And of course, you changed your study field which all
Yeah.
of them were kind of risky and took a lot of effort from you. And I know you have a lot of energy, by the way. It's very you're an outgoing person, and you give that
Yeah.
energy to everyone right away. But if you want to mention the biggest reason or the most important reason for being able to land in a good job in a design, one of the things like networking or mentorship
Mhm.
or a study, which one is the most important thing or
I
most
think,
helpful?
yeah, I think my answer is in two parts. On the one hand, like, I think if you're not a good designer, you're just not gonna, like, get through any doors. So there's a baseline. They talk about the T-shaped skills of UX design. There's a baseline for all those skills, right? When it comes to understanding how to work Figma, prototype, how people traditionally think of design, right? But then also like user research, usability testing, idea generation, and being able to work fast and in iterations. I think there's a baseline for it, right? And so honestly, I think that it's possible to reach that baseline if you like, there's so many resources out there these days, right? There's a lot of noise. I think it's about cutting through all the noise, but I think it's possible, and I think a lot of designers are able to at least reach that baseline. And then the second part of my answer, beyond that, I think what a lot of designers are missing these days is the ability to do marketing and sales for their self. Um, and I don't mean that in the traditional way necessarily, but like in the recruiting way. I think the way that I think about recruiting is you are the product, or at least your work, your design work, your case studies, your portfolio is the product, and you need to like market the shit out of that and sell the shit out of that. And I just don't think a lot of designers are trained to do that. And that's not your fault, right? Like, you don't, a lot of designers go to school, good design schools, right? CMU, SCAD, but they're not taught how to like market your portfolio, how to write a LinkedIn post. There's like literally no classes on that, right? You study like color theory, human computer interaction, but you don't take any classes about how do you market your portfolio, how do you follow up, and be like super annoying or aggressive about it, right? Like that, you're essentially like run like the CEO of your own portfolio, and you need to understand how to run a company that way. And because a lot of designers lack those skills, they're stuck, not being, they're stuck being like, my portfolio is in good shape, but then like, why are all my applications going into like a black hole when I apply?
And so basically, you're saying that the self branding or personal branding is very
Yeah.
important, basically. But
Mhm.
if you wanna say one technique or one thing that helped you to build your own personal brand,
Yeah.
what would that be?
I'd say LinkedIn. LinkedIn presence was big for me. Well, actually, I'd break it into two parts. LinkedIn was huge for marketing for me. And then when it comes to sales, it was cold outreach. Learning the skill of cold outreach can be kind of brutal. But once you master it, it will take you far in life beyond just design recruiting. It's helped me. We can talk about this later, but it's helped me a lot as a founder, and just being very persistent about what you want and being resilient and being able to get back up. Those two skills, like marketing on LinkedIn and like going to conferences, and sales and like cold emailing, following up, just being completely shameless about following up with people and sending out cold emails and not fearing rejection. Those skills I know will serve me for life. But it all started with design recruiting and wanting to get a job in design.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a very interesting point, and like how to come to that realization that you can reach out to people for what you need or what you want for your goal, and do not
Yeah.
be afraid
Mhm.
of rejection or hearing no. How did you come to this realization? Like, when was the time that you said, just fuck it, I will send this message?
I I think it was actually, so I will say getting into IBM, that was more campus recruiting. I think a lot of people who did design or CS in undergrad will be familiar with that, right? Like recruiters will come to campus. So that actually didn't require a lot of marketing or sales on my end. They're essentially coming to you because they're sourcing early or entry level talent, right? But when it came to switching jobs for the first time, and I don't think a lot of people talk about this enough, like as an undergrad who's like a fresh grad who's going into their first job, there's a lot of opportunities and resources, right? Especially like on campus, like people know that you're looking for a job. Nobody talks about the entry point of going from your first job to your second job. That was brutal for me, and so that's where I think I learned the hardest but most valuable lesson. So going from IBM to Dropbox, I remember I had a list of 10 companies that I really wanted to get into. I put in an Airtable, and that helped keep me accountable because in the recruiting process, it's very easy to get distracted and be like, oh, but what about this company? What about this company? Right? I was very specific. And Dropbox was at the top of my list because one, productivity tools. I love productivity tools. I'm the annoying friend who will always ask you, like, how do you organize your files? How do you manage your to-do list, right? And then also, just in general, I wanted to work in a high-performing design team. I just wanted to understand what that looked and felt like, especially at a smaller company. Obviously, Dropbox is not a startup; they're public. But IBM versus Dropbox, very big difference, right? Um, so anyways, I think one of the skills, to answer your question, one of the skills that really helped me was, I think it was two things. One, being on LinkedIn and posting about, I went to a lot of conferences in that time, and it wasn't an immediate payoff. It wasn't like, oh, I'll go to this conference, I'll get a job. But I would post on LinkedIn about the conferences, and that kind of kicked off the start of me posting consistently on LinkedIn. And I think, like design managers, hiring managers, recruiters, they're on LinkedIn too, right? So they're seeing that, right? So that's like the marketing aspect. And I remember I literally had people reach out to me. Like, mind you, this was me maybe anywhere from a year to 2 years of experience, right? But even then, I remember I had people reaching out to me, just like cold reach out to me either on LinkedIn or via email. Specifically, I think I had Disney, Palantir, Atlassian, and Asana reach out to me, and that's because I'm pretty sure that's because I posted on LinkedIn. And I was just active there. And so that was like a big, like, oh, like it works, right? Like literally 1 to 2 years of experience, people are reaching out to you. And then the second thing was just writing cold emails. I think most people suck at writing cold emails. I'm just going to be totally honest with you. It's very generic. You can tell that you either wrote it with AI or didn't put ton of effort into it. So I think that's like a big thing.
Yeah, you were talking about this cold emails, like sending email to
Mhm.
yeah, someone that you don't know maybe for the first time, which is a tricky thing. And you said majority of the people doesn't know how to do it, huh? I wanted to ask you
Yeah.
if you want to teach us one technique, like, Kia, if you do this, you most probably will get a response. What would be that technique?
Yeah, the thought exercise I would do and ask yourself is, can anybody else say this about themselves? So I see this problem in emails and in resumes. They're too generic. People say, oh, I conducted 5 usability tests. Okay, well, anybody can come in and conduct 5 usability tests. Anybody can say that, really, right? So I'll give you specific examples. The three things that I would say is at Dropbox, I led a project by design, and we increased the annual recurring revenue by $1.2 million, right? No other designer in the world can say that about about their work. And then I also at IBM, I won the Red Dot Design Award for the best of the best for one of the projects that we worked on, right? Obviously, like my team at IBM can say that, but nobody else in the world can say that about themselves. So stuff like that, but like dig deep, right? What's something like really impressive that only, and like obviously, like yeah, if you win an award or something big, but like even if it's like small things, but it needs to be specific enough and impressive enough that it's like specific to you, and it's impressive to a hiring manager as soon as they read it, right? I would say
How do
that's
you
like
start your email? That's my like concern because as
yeah.
you mentioned, yeah, these are very important that you show
Hmm.
how unique you are, or at least the aspects that is just for you.
Yeah.
But that first sentences. Do you have
Yeah,
any
yeah.
trick for that to hook the reader?
Yeah, so the subject line is actually, so let's say I'm applying to Airtable. I'll say the subject line will be next designer at Airtable, question mark. And so I'm already kind of making them think like, oh, like this is somebody that could be potentially playing this role, right? So it's like a subtle psychological thing. And then to answer your question, the first line, I'll of course always say hi and then say their name. First line, I'll say, hi, I know you're busy, so I'll cut straight to the chase, right? So acknowledging that they're a busy person, and then going straight, like we're doing business here, right? I'm not gonna waste your time. So kind of like again, psychologically acknowledging their like showing respect for their time and space, like right off the bat. And then introducing yourself. I'm Kathy. I work at Dropbox and IBM, and here are 3 reasons why I I should be the next designer at Airtable.
Mhm.
So very, very short, and showing respect of their time.
Yeah, Katie, I will use this advice and I will tell you if it works or not
Oh my gosh,
in the
yes, get
future.
back to me.
But they are very interesting. Like I really like the thing that you said about the subject line. It's very catchy, I would say. You mentioned about the awards that you won. For designers who are seeking to get this kind of awards, what is the most important thing that you need to consider when you're working on a project? Or what are the characteristics of the
Yeah.
projects that are going to be nominee for this kind of award?
Yeah, I mean, Red Dot Award, I think specifically looks for craft, commitment to excellence when it comes to visual design, right? So I think to start off with, IBM's Carbon design system is quite well known, and a lot of people referred to it, right? When I was building a design system, I constantly referred back to how did they do their variants, how did they do their typography, colors, all of that, right? And so I think to start off with, we already had a really solid baseline with Carbon design system, making sure every component they release is tested for accessibility and all of that, right? And then on top of that, I think my team just had some really, really excellent visual designers. Who are really good at the craft. Also, for context, IBM is a huge company, 400,000 people. And so we were actually a lot more, what's the word? We were a lot more like, I guess the roles were more specified. We didn't actually have product designers. You were either UX designer or a visual designer. So our team was actually split into visual and UX. And I think that also really helped because, you can have somebody who's truly, truly committed to the craft, right? And to making like understanding like layouts, making sure we're applying the Carbon design system correctly, and just it was such a privilege to be able to learn from people like that and just up I think there's no better thing than learning from somebody who's just like slightly above you, right? Because like then it's attainable, but then you also see like them excelling at the craft. So anyways, just being on a team like that was really awesome.
I can imagine. I can imagine. I just want to also get slowly toward what you're doing at the moment.
Yeah.
But I cannot stop myself asking this from you that you won, like, I don't know, many hackathon or at least one hackathon. You have the experience winning some awards. how
Yeah.
important these things were for you when you were building and developing your career path. Do you think they've played a very important role?
I think so, yes. And honestly, I think when I posted on LinkedIn, of course, I wanted to come off as very, very impressive, because one of the goals, I mean, the winning the award in and of itself is great, right? It feels like an accomplishment, but also another goal is marketing and PR, right? Like if I win something, oh, you bet I'm going to be posting about it on LinkedIn. Um, but I think part of it is just the act of participating in these hackathons and in these competitions. I think a lot of designers are scared to.
Mhm.
I mean, now after having been a designer and participating in so many hackathons, it's just like it's just natural for me to like want to do one. But I know back in the day I was scared too, right? I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a designer. It's a hackathon. Hackathons are traditionally for engineers, and a lot of them still are. And it really like I think a lot of hackathons, especially in SF Bay Area, they're very like specific to engineers. I think a lot of designers are just scared to even start. So I would encourage designers to just go into places where you don't necessarily feel like you belong, because that's the only way to expand your comfort zone. You'll be much more comfortable doing things like out there things. But yeah, I honestly think design awards, hackathons, it's really like a marketing thing, right? You want to signal to people that you're a good designer. Um, and like obviously be a good designer, meet the baseline. But then there's also a whole nother world of marketing where you have to signal to people who don't necessarily know design, or just you have to signal to people in general, like, hey, like I'm a good designer. And it's so interesting because of me talking about the Red Dot Design Award and like these hackathons, having won an OpenAI hackathon, um, people introduce me to others and say, "Oh, like Kathy's a great designer." Even though they've never seen my design work, right? They've never opened up my portfolio. They've never worked directly with me as a designer, but yet they still say it confidently to others who might be in the product or design world, which is like a really, really interesting thing, right? And those people are yeah, so those people are some of my, like, biggest supporters, but they never see my design work, so you gotta know how to play the game of marketing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very good advice and interesting impact on others. Huh? Like it's a part of a marketing strategy, I would say.
Yeah.
Uh, Great. There are a lot of stuff I can talk about it, but I guess we can slowly talk about what you're doing at the moment. But before that, we will have a very short break and we will be right back. Yeah, before we get into the next part, which I
Yeah.
would like to focus on what you're doing currently, I want to ask one more question about Dropbox and IBM.
Mhm.
They are
Yeah.
big names in the industry. And I guess it's a very, very nice experience for someone to work there as a designer or any other field as well.
Yeah.
I just want you to share one learning that you had from those company or working in those
Mhm.
company that can help
Yeah.
other designers as well.
Yeah, so IBM, I have a story. I worked with a more senior designer. She was maybe 4 years of experience at the time, and I remember there was one interaction design pattern that we just did not agree on. And I remember pushing so hard for my point of view. But like I literally did not have any experience. And so I looking back, I feel like I should have just picked my battles. Because we must have spent like I don't know, an extra month on that. And by the way, today in the day and age of AI, that would never happen, right? Like well, I would have just prototyped it, shown a user, and be done, right?
True.
But back then, I was like, oh my gosh, like I have to push for my opinion. And honestly, I think I did what I'm gonna give grace to my younger self. I did what I thought was right at the time and what was best for me. Because I think as a creative at heart, it's hard to like let go of certain creative decisions. Because for me, I feel like I operate on extremes. It's either I care a lot about it or I just don't care at all, right? And I didn't want to be completely apathetic, so I was like, I have to push for my opinion. But it was very hard for me to understand as a designer that you can reach a middle ground. You can still care about it, but let go of certain decisions. And so yeah, I mean, if I could go back in time, I would not waste a whole month on like going back and forth in Slack. I would just be like, okay, like if that's how we want to, or let's reach a compromise very quickly, right? Instead
Hmm.
of dragging
Hmm.
it out. So that's one thing at IBM. At Dropbox, my biggest learning was just in general collaboration. I think IBM is much more in my personal experience at IBM, it was more siloed. It was like it's a design team. I identified very closely to the design team. We had lunch together every day. But then there was like the product management organization, and then there was the engineering organization. So it felt more split. Whereas at Dropbox, we operated more in pods, and so each pod was engineering like 8 to 10 engineers, one designer, one product manager, right? So I identified as much with my pod as I did with my design team. And at Dropbox, I had never worked at that level of collaboration with a product manager and
Hmm.
being true thought partners and bouncing ideas off of each other. I think one of my greatest memories at Dropbox was we were in a meeting and I think we were brainstorming like a product idea that we wanted to go forward with when we were kicking off a project. And, I was bringing up, oh, like the user might not like this, or this might not be good for user experience. Engineers would bring up technical limitations, and the product manager is thinking about how do we meet the launch timeline. And I just felt like we were all bringing our own specific skill sets and growth edges to the table, and we were operating at what I call growth or group flow state. We were just operating at the peak of all of our potentials, and that was such a good feeling. And so, in general, every day with meetings, I try to replicate that like group flow state, because I think that's when everybody is in it, and everybody's really excited and just operating at peak potential. It's just such a good feeling.
Yeah, very, very interesting and helpful, I guess, lesson for everyone. I also relate to both of them actually, like especially the first one that you mentioned. Even now, I kind of challenge myself to sometime let the things go, even if it's not
Yeah.
my, you know, uh, recommendation or opinion. But
Yeah.
I kind of practice that every day, huh? Let it go, it's
Yeah.
okay. I mean, you shared your opinion properly, so
Yeah, yeah. It's
yeah.
tough. It's tough as a creative, especially.
Yeah. So I guess one of the things that you are doing nowadays, and you actually started a long time ago, and you mentioned it,
Mhm.
is that you are actively posting on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
this is one of the tools that you are using for personal branding, and I see that you have a very great uh, like impression uh, and reach for your posts and everything. Like people are
Yeah.
interacting with your posts, and that's very, very like interesting for myself because I'm trying to do the same, and most most of the time I'm failing at the moment. But I ask you, what is the technique? Maybe I ask you again, what made you successful to be seen within the LinkedIn?
Yeah. I mean, oh, I was gonna say, yeah, you do a great job on YouTube. Obviously, you know that. I mean, I'm trying to do like one of my New Year's resolutions is to get more into YouTube and just do it. YouTube, like going from LinkedIn, which is like mostly written content, to YouTube just feels like such a big leap.
But you
Uh,
have a YouTube. I already checked that.
yeah, I like I don't know. I even with this podcast, this is a little bit meta, but with this podcast, I was telling my co-founder, I was like, "What am I going to talk about for 2 hours? Like, who's going to listen to me for 2 hours?" Yeah, but I will say, like with LinkedIn, your question was like just like tips for how to post on LinkedIn,
To
right?
be honest, I watched one video from you that you're explaining
Mhm.
how to work in social network to get the maximum out of it,
Yeah,
especially LinkedIn. You
yeah,
mentioned consistency in that video, like one of the key
yeah.
parameter, key factor that
Oh
help
yeah,
you a
yeah.
lot. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is
Yeah.
just very difficult to get to that level of consistency. Sometime I
Yeah.
personally post 2 times per day, and sometime I'm like, I don't want to even get close to
Mm-hmm.
my laptop. But you're doing it very
Mm-hmm.
good. How do you manage that?
Yeah. Yeah, so consistency is key. I mean, this is like such tired advice, but it's tired advice for a reason because it's true. So my actual specific LinkedIn journey, I told you I had posted kind of consistently for hackathons or for conferences that I had attended, but that was honestly that was more passive in my LinkedIn journey. I started around like end of college, and my goal at the time was to get a job, right?
Mhm.
So be as visible as possible to hiring managers and recruiters. And so what was easy for me to get started on, you see all these like LinkedIn thought leaders posting about their own opinions. But at the time as a student who had like a few months of design experience, that just felt unattainable to me, right? And so, excuse me, what helped me was just going to conferences, going to events, and kind of almost like reporting back on my experience. Like that's easy enough, right? Because
Mhm.
that's something I can text to a friend, like, oh, these are the photos, this is my experience. And so if you're just starting out, I would encourage you to just go to events and just like write about them. It feels a lot more attainable than just posting about your own thoughts, right? And then eventually, the kind of most recent part of my LinkedIn journey in March of last year, 2025, I was still working full time at Snorkel.
Mhm.
Um, and I just decided one day that I'm going to post on LinkedIn every single day. And how I kicked it off was at first it seemed kind of ridiculous, like, oh my gosh, how am I going to come up with an idea every single day?
Yeah.
But then kicked it off with a conference, Human X in Las Vegas that I had went to, and I had won a hackathon there, and I milked that content, right? So for a week straight, I literally posted every single day, like, "Oh, we won," and then this is what we built, right? So that was enough to last me for a week. But after that week, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I need to have ideas." And the thing that really was interesting was I thought coming up with ideas was the hardest part, and it was for like a
Mhm.
week or two. But then once you start training your mind to look for ideas in like everyday things, your brain, like it's a muscle, right? Once you develop that muscle, your brain doesn't stop. It's like wired to look for things now. And now I have a list. I will never run out of ideas because I have a list and I just always add to it. I think one thought exercise I do is if you have conversations with people at a networking event or just anything tangentially career related, and you talk about something that makes somebody laugh or that makes you laugh, that's a signal that might hit or land with the LinkedIn audience.
Mhm.
And so every time that happens to me, I like mentally make a note because it's like rude to pull out your phone in the middle of a conversation, but I mentally make a note like, oh, that's a good LinkedIn post. And that's how I get a lot of my ideas nowadays.
To be honest, I'm looking forward for YouTube channel that you're gonna run. I
I
guess
know
you will
somebody
have
talking.
amazing content. You mentioned that the biggest challenge is to kind of think about the content at the beginning. After that, you will get used to some stuff. Because I'm also experiencing similar things for the YouTube. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, what else can I talk about? Of course, the technology is going
Yeah.
or getting developed very fast. There are new tools coming out. You can talk about a lot of stuff. But there is one trap usually in our mind. I don't know if I'm calling it right or not. The knowledge trap that we
Mhm.
think the things we know, everybody else also know them, or
Mhm.
the things we experience is not so valuable for the others. They must probably experience the same thing. But you're very
Yeah.
right. So the more you make the content, the more familiar you get with this feeling. And sometimes I'm like, let me make some simple video. Even I'm pretty sure no one is going to watch it, but let me make it. That's a
Yeah.
content.
Yeah. That's so interesting. It makes me think like because a lot of designers who are more senior, a lot of my friends actually I feel like they used to have very good knowledge of what it's like to do recruiting as an early career designer, but now they've almost like forgotten it, so they give very generic advice, right? Like, "Oh, just apply," or like, "Just talk to the hiring manager." I'm like, "Man, if only you knew how," like, one, it's a little bit out of touch because if only you knew how hard it is in this market, right? You're lucky to have a job in design. And then two, yeah, I think you just forget, right? Like some people just don't have that knowledge, and then you also like you're far away from it that like you don't remember what it's like. So I think it's also just a really important practice to like not only speak about it, but like a lot of things. If I hadn't given, I've given a lot of talks over the past few years, so I have a lot of content that I still retain now. But if I hadn't given those talks, honestly, like I don't think I would be able to give like very like super practical and specific advice. So, yeah,
Yeah, I can
it's
imagine. Yeah.
good to just write down things that you think are obvious, but actually like are not, especially in the moment because you're gonna forget later.
Yeah, yeah, true, true. Well, let's stick with this topic a little bit more. It's very tricky for me myself, in person, that when I'm going to one event or somewhere, gathering with the other designers or people who are working in the tech companies, to start a meaningful networking or a meaningful
Yeah.
conversation, because usually people coming there, they're all they have all the hunger of meeting new people, introduce themselves, give a lot of information about themselves to someone else. And I experienced many times, or in the majority of cases, just getting to know a lot of people that not sharing so much, common value.
Mm.
How can you escape from this trap? I guess you do that in your LinkedIn as well. You just don't post randomly. You have a strategy. You know where you're
Mhm.
going to target.
Yeah. I would say when it comes to networking, these days I think back then I got to a kind of middle point where I was no longer looking for a design job. So my strategy wasn't super like yeah, I didn't have it was more about personal branding at that point because I understood the power of personal branding.
Mhm.
Not only does it get you jobs, it opens doors for opportunities you haven't even thought of, haven't even dreamt of, right? And so these days, like I think then networking, I was a lot more open to meeting people because I didn't have a specific strategy. So it actually allowed me to be more open to meeting different types of people. These days, like as a founder, I'm much more directed. So when I walk into a room, if there's like the hosts of the event, I probably connected with on LinkedIn prior, and yeah, the people there, I have very specific people I want to meet, right? So it's interesting. I've navigated all different stages of networking, like being more open versus like I want to meet this person. I'm here to meet that person, and then after that, I can be more open to casual, informal, open networking. When it comes to networking, I think just be curious. I try to go in. I don't always like I don't always follow my own advice. I think a lot of us are guilty of that. But I try to go in with the mindset of like every person in here has something to teach you, right? And it is
That's
your
true.
job to figure out what that is. Some people are very open, are very vulnerable right off the bat, so it's easy to talk to them. But even people who are not super used to just being super open right off the bat, I think you can treat it as a challenge and think of like these are like quite like I think do you do a good job of this, Kia? I mean, obviously, like you do podcasts, but I like asking like picking up on small threads, right? And be like, "Oh, like what is it about that that makes you feel that way?" And I also notice you do this, asking about specifics, right? I think people like to talk in generalities, but if you ask for a specific example or if you can pull stories out of people, that's gold, right? Because then you can relate to it yourself and you have a deeper understanding of them. So yeah, I think in general that's like yeah, being able also prefer one-on-ones as opposed to group conversations. So in one-on-ones, I especially am able to use kind of those, I guess, like strategies to be able to really get to know a person very quickly in a span of 10-15 minutes.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. What you mentioned is, of course, one of the very useful and important skills in the communication, basically, that how you can get the thread or make some threads for continuing the conversation or making a start of
Yeah.
the conversation. Let's maybe have a very quick change in the topic.
Yeah.
Last year you had, or it was this year actually. I got confused a little bit, but you had your first keynote talk, which
Yeah.
I was so excited about it because I mean, of course, it was just 1 month I knew you, and I still
Mhm.
was a little bit nervous myself without knowing you and talking with you because I guess
Yeah.
it's the biggest step. How were you feeling about that?
Yeah, I mean, so it was a 5-minute keynote for context, and the organizer of the conference actually reached out to me on LinkedIn. She had seen another one of my posts, and she thought it'd be good topic, for somewhere in the agenda. Um, I honestly the shorter the amount of time, the more preparation it takes because you need to fit everything that you want in 5 minutes, and you need to say it in a way where it doesn't feel like you're cramming a ton of information and it feels natural and like a story, right? Like that's really, really difficult. So you don't see the amount of preparation. That was the first time I had ever given that specific talk. And I had done pitches of my company, of course, but this is different. This is a keynote. You're not supposed to like be
But it was
pitching
related to
to
press
press
club.
club.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was related, but I think I mentioned it at the end, just like I'm the co-founder of Press Club. But I wasn't really like talking about it specifically. Um, yeah. So anyways, you don't see. I think I must have spent hours of preparation in Figma slides, just like making sure the story is good, making sure the slides are clean. Yeah, it was a lot of preparation. But the keynote itself, by that time, I had practiced it over 20 times, like just in my own house, pretending like that I had a clicker. So by the time I was backstage, I was still a little nervous, but I knew the practice, the muscle memory would kick in because I've done enough speaking gigs to be confident in that. So yeah, when I was actually on stage, I was like pretty calm, and so yeah, it went very well.
It's always very big challenge for me
Yeah.
personally, and I never did such a talk. But you know, we have small or let's say very important talks in our working basically
Mm,
environment
mhm.
time to time that the spotlight is on us,
Yeah.
and it's always stressy. And like I try to find some way to control my stress. I get
Yeah.
the same level of stress even when I'm recording video for my YouTube channel.
Mm.
Each time I put the camera there and turn it on, I'm totally another guy, you know. And finding a way to be more natural is always challenging. But for example,
Yeah.
I read a lot how to control that feeling. And one of the things that I
Mm.
do, and I feel like it's working, is to try to increase my like heartbeat and kind of blood
Mhm.
pressure by doing some sport activities like push up or something
Yeah.
like that. I don't know. It's kind of released some hormone in my body that is helping me to get more relaxed afterward. So anytime I have a meeting down here, I'm doing some push-ups, which is kind of helpful. I guess I heard this for the first time from Christo, if I'm not mistaken. Just credit to him. Uh, yeah, so let's now find our way to Press Club. You
Yeah.
mentioned the name. I'm personally very excited to hear about it because I just read one post from you that how you end up making Press Club, which I want to hear from you
Yeah.
first of all. How did you come with the
Yeah.
idea?
Yeah, so obviously I've always known the importance. I mean, not always, but like in the past years, right? I've come to understand the importance of personal branding, so that's always been really big for me. But anyways, going back, so I was working at Snorkel AI, their Series D startup now, around 150, 200 people, and I was working that job for I think over a year at that point, and I really enjoyed it. But I had always known that I wanted to start a company. That's why if you look at my LinkedIn at my career progression, I started from very big company for the career mentorship, IBM, and I get smaller and smaller, right, from Dropbox, Snorkel, and that was very intentional on my part because I knew I wanted to eventually go into the startup life, experience that, and then do it.
Hmm.
myself.
Hmm.
That's why I moved to San Francisco 3 years ago now. And so eventually I made the decision to quit Snorkel, despite having a really good experience there. But I was like, you know what? I think also the catalyst was Figma Config last year. I heard Nolan Perkins speak. I didn't know Nolan Perkins at the time, but I remember sitting in the audience and being like, "Holy crap, Nolan! He's a designer by training, but he's also a content creator, right? He posts on TikTok, on LinkedIn, and one of his products really took off. Task Tree, right? It's ADHD, or it's a task management app for people with ADHD. And I was like, holy crap, like that's amazing. Like designer, content creator, founder, that's everything I want to do. And obviously I had known those career paths to exist individually, but I had never seen somebody take all three of them and be very successful with it. And so I think as soon as I realized that, it just something, this is another like light bulb moment in my career. Sitting in that audience, I was like, yeah, that's it. That's what I want to do. And so I quit my job literally a week later. So that was
Without
like,
preparation, or it was like,
I mean, obviously I had been thinking about it for a while, so this isn't like, oh, I quit purely because of Nolan, but yeah, I mean, I didn't have a startup idea, much to my mother's dismay. I just didn't know exactly what I was gonna do, but I knew that I wanted to be a founder, I wanted to start my own thing and not depend on like a corporate job as my sole income stream. So yeah, I decided to quit basically on the spot with what felt like at the time like just no preparation, right?
this is
Um
scary, huh? A little bit.
it was scary. Oh my gosh. You should have seen like I all the notes that I wrote down, like should I do it, should I not? My history with ChatGPT probably looked very crazy. I had a lot of like internal debate, and it is very difficult for me. But also, I think another thing that I realized at the time was like right now at this point in my life, I am lucky and privileged enough to be financially stable that I have a personal runway, right? If I quit a job and I don't like end up not working at all, for a couple months or even years. But then also I am at a point in my life where I don't have kids, I don't have a family yet. And so I was like, oh, there is no better time than now to do it, right? And so I like now is not the time to optimize for financial stability. Now is the time to take the biggest risks I've ever known in my life and not regret anything in this period of life. So that was also another huge like propeller for me to quit my job. Yeah.
I can
Um,
imagine. Yes, it's a very, very like difficult to think that way. I
yeah.
told you I relate to your story. Like I also have a
Yeah.
lot of ideas. I want to work on this. I want to work on my own stuff. But then in reality, I'm like, what if not? And that's kind
Yeah.
of a feeling that pushing me back. And I
Yeah.
really admire people who can kind of deal with this feeling and get out of their comfort zone, which you did.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
yeah,
did.
as I said, it would be very scary, but you did it. And how's it going now? What are you doing? What is Press Club?
Yeah. So after I quit my job, I was a content creator for a little bit actually. And that like I was still doing the post every single day on LinkedIn. And then actually I was posting 3 times a day on LinkedIn, including weekends. So that
You said LinkedIn 2 times. The
oh,
second
sorry,
one,
on TikTok. I was
TikTok.
posting
Oh,
3
okay.
times a day on TikTok. And for that, I actually was documenting my journey. I wanted to document the first 100 days of going from corporate, my entire career, to completely going off into doing something of my own. And so I think in general, people like to follow the behind the scenes. They like to follow a journey.
True.
So that was a really cool experience. But then I also put myself out there, right? I went to a lot of events, a lot of hackathons, taking advantage of the fact that I live in San Francisco, Bay Area. And at one of the hackathons, so typically hackathons at the beginning, people come up and pitch their ideas so that way you can form a team. And this guy, my now co-founder, he pitched an idea where he was talking about, oh, like he was launching a product. He ran a consumer electronics company and he was doing a big product launch and he needed press. But traditionally, if you're a founder and you want press, you talk to a PR agency and that costs like at least $5,000, right? And he was like, "Man, I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna do it on my own." And so he basically locked in for a week and sent out 200 cold emails to journalists. And lo and behold, that actually landed him Forbes and the Wall Street Journal and 8 other outlets. And so I was like, holy crap, like I respect the hustle. If anything, from that story, I can tell he has grit, he has resilience. It takes a lot to send out 200 cold emails back to back and do follow ups and like research your journalists and make sure you match their beat. So I was like, I respect that, and I had a lot of personal experience with that as well, right? Like I wanted to go to TechCrunch, I didn't want to pay $300, so I messaged all 100 sponsors listed on the conference website, right? So I've had my fair share of just doing cold outreach, and so we ended up pairing together and forming a team and going through with the hackathon. I used Lovable to build the initial prototype. It literally took me 30 minutes, the front end, and then another 30 minutes to integrate with the back end. So the rest of the time we spent like trying to get customers, and we actually had somebody pay us $20 on the spot to get access to our product. So we won second place at the hackathon. We had our first like official paying customer, first revenue, and then most importantly, we realized we work really well together. He has an engineering and engineering background, and he spikes in sales, and I have a design background, obviously, and I spike in marketing and growth hacking. And so and in general, we had really big, like really good co-founder chemistry. I think we just implicitly understood certain things. Like he was like, when he was like, "Oh, let's go out and find customers," I was like, "Yeah, like that makes sense," right? I think some people would be resistant to it. When I make my slides very, very minimal, and some people like push back on it. They're like, "You should have some words on it." And I was like, slides are just a visual aid. He implicitly understood that, right?
Hmm.
So I think there's just very, very specific things that each of us picked up on. We were like, okay, yeah. So like after that, we had a meeting and we were like, should we just go all in, build this product out, see what happens, become co-founders, and figure it out as we go along? And we decided to do it. So that is the birth of Press Club.
You did the prototyping together, or it was kind of your idea, or because you said that you
Yeah.
work on it in a Lovable.
Yeah, so we split up. We did a 30-minute, I remember very specifically, we did a 30-minute sprint. We were like, he and another engineer on the hackathon team would take care of the back end. And honestly, it was just a chain of ChatGPT prompts. It was a lot of prompt engineering. And then I would basically take the front end and then we would
Ah, okay,
integrate it.
understood,
Yeah. So,
understood.
so yeah, it took me 30 minutes maybe to just do the initial prompt, one-shot prompt, but
Hmm.
then just do some like modifications to it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, I would like to know more about Press Club. I
Yeah.
tried to check the platform. To be honest, I couldn't get much information like how it's working. I didn't go like
Oh,
so deep into it. I was
yeah, yeah,
waiting
yeah.
for you that today we talk about it. If there is something you can show us how this tool is working, how it's going to help the users or your target audiences,
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
be happy to see.
Yeah. I mean, so the pressclub.app is the website. But that actually, a lot of that is actually from the original hackathon. We haven't made too many changes to it. Um, so yeah, but I can actually talk through the process. So we essentially help our general vision is to build an external communications agent, right? I think a lot, and starting with founders, but in general, in the future, it could be anybody really who needs access to anything. Because in general, I think what I realized is a lot of people need access to things, but they're either scared of rejection or it's too tedious to send out 200 cold emails in one day. So right now we're starting with press, but it will expand into external communications. How it actually works is we work on a results-based pricing. So you only pay if you land an interview with Forbes or the Wall Street Journal, for instance.
Okay.
And we right now most of the tooling is like internal. So my co-founder, he's basically automated the entire process. So we'll obviously do like an introductory call, understand what you're looking for, and then 30 minutes is the actual interview. So a lot of founders don't actually know what's cool about themselves. What they say on the surface, superficially, in like a coffee chat is actually not the coolest thing about themselves. So we're trying to get their story, right? Understand, excuse me, where are they coming from? And then once we get that story, then what we kick off the automation process, and they're basically hands
This
off.
part is manual, basically. You will have a real interview with a person.
Yeah, yeah.
Ah,
Eventually,
okay.
we want to automate that. I think AI is actually really good for that. I've come across a couple of use cases where I've gotten interviewed by AI, and it's really good at like picking up the
Yeah,
threads that
true.
we were talking about earlier. And
Yeah,
also, you're interviewing with an AI, there you don't feel judged, right? So there's definitely parts where AI does really well when
true.
interviewing
Yeah.
someone. Yeah. So yeah, anyways, but right now all of that is in person. One, because we don't have it automated, but two, it's just I think we want to understand as a founder, you want to understand every single part of the process before you just like hand it off to the
Very
automation
valid
gods.
point, I would say. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so anyways, we do the 30-minute interview, and then after that is when the automation starts. And so we've officially, as of the holidays, we've officially automated end to end this entire process, which is really exciting. But yeah, we kick it off. Like first, it's finding like what are the journalists that make the most sense to reach out to, right? And then we'll verify that list with the customer. And then after that, we'll figure out like what are the emails to reach out to. That's a whole task in and of itself, right? That the automation we've now been able to automate. But yeah, and then after that, we kick off like the research on the journalist. You don't want to just send a generic message to a journalist because
Yeah.
they won't respond to it, right? They get 100 to 500 emails in their inbox, right? So you want to make sure you craft it and cater it to the angle or the beat that they report on. So that's really, really important. And obviously, AI has a tendency to hallucinate. So it's very easy for it to hallucinate articles that don't even exist. So we
Yeah.
always do a human check through everything. And then also AI slop, right? I think a lot of journalists are very sensitive. They write for a living, so of course they're very sensitive to like things that are generated by AI, or it's very clear human didn't review it. So we take a lot of care and precision into making sure every message like is human reviewed. Yeah, so we do that whole process. And yeah, that's how, and then we just wait until we get a response. We'll do follow-ups as well, right? A lot of times, I think a lot of people don't know this, especially designers. But like it's not just the first message. You have to follow up. You have to be quite persistent, right? Like 2, 3 times, even up to 4 or 5 times. That's normal for salespeople.
Mhm.
But for other people who are not in sales, it feels very like annoying almost
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
spammy, right? But sometimes that's just what needs to be done to stand out in a very cluttered inbox. So we do follow-ups as well as part of the automation and then we just wait until we get a response.
Because I'm just trying to imagine what you exactly provide the
Yeah.
customer. So, because in my imagination, what is kind of like a dashboard
Yeah.
that the client and customer can kind of check what is happening with their request, how's the process. Is that like that? What's your vision? Are you planning to do this also, all these processes automated? Or
Yeah.
you still feel like this is very important to, as you mentioned, kind of monitor it by a human?
Yeah, I think there needs to be a human in the loop to review everything at the end of the day. But I mean, at the end of the day, if I think the AI will like continuously improve, right? The base models, obviously, but also like our own specific for our own specific use cases, right? Like if we give it feedback, like overall, it should be able to improve.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I think like there will still be a human at the end of the day to review, but eventually what I imagine is AI will like in the process will get so good that like all the human needs to do is just like do a very quick glance and there will be minimal mistakes. or minimal modifications, and it's good to go. But yeah, so right now, like this is the interface that the user's interacting with is either a group chat with me and my co-founder or an
Understand.
email thread with me and my co-founder, right? That's their dashboard. That's how they get updates. So we're being very scrappy. We don't have the dashboard built out, but your intuition is correct. So like in the future, like ideally everything is through like an interface, like a dashboard, and they can track like, oh, like this is how long it's like they can get and dive into as specific as they want, right? Like these are the top engaged journalists. These are all the messages I sent out today. And this is what I'm waiting on. This is what like journalists or outlets that I've already landed. Yeah, everything would be tracked there, and they'd be able to interact with the agent. What we imagine is the agent will basically run quietly in the background, but you're able to track it, like everything that it's doing, right? And then you can give real-time feedback if you feel like it's falling off the tracks at whatever point.
Well, just want to say 2 points. First of all, I feel like you're doing a very interesting thing. As a designer, I feel like you are not designing basically a final product right away at the beginning. What you're trying to do is trying to basically create and design the whole process, the service itself, and
Yeah.
then build on top of that, which is a very interesting approach, I would say. And I'm looking forward to see the
Yeah.
results, to be honest. And second thing
Mhm.
is that I noticed recently that there are two things in the design that are getting so trendy. One is the agentic
Mhm.
experience design, which is also related to what you are doing. So basically creating automated agents that has memory, that are going to have a conversation with the users, and they can decide, evaluate and act. And the other thing is conversational experience design. These are two things that I feel like is getting very trendy. I don't feel like they are getting trendy and very important. And you can see it these days in the job market. I'm just saying this for audiences, anybody who is watching or listening.
Yeah.
I guess that's going to be the future of experience designing in general. But yeah,
Mhm.
very great. I also was thinking that from the other side, these journalists are basically the other side of your platform that you are trying to reach out to them. Most probably they are going to also use agentic system soon. So this human to human
Yeah.
connections are going to be more difficult, I have to say. Uh,
Mhm.
is there
Yeah.
any other things, any other exciting things that you're working these days on? Are you working on Press Club full time?
Yeah, I am working on Press Club full time. It's so funny because literally yesterday my co-founder and I were working in the office for the first time in this year. And yeah, we're both like the type that we just love what we do, and we're like, even if we were exited founders and had, made a ton of money in an exit, like this is our dream life. Like going to the office every day, like being able to collaborate with each other and work on something that we both really care about. Like both of us are like, yeah, we even if both I neither of us can really imagine a retirement without work. Like we would retire, but both of us enjoy work so much that we would probably just do this till the day we die, or till we literally physically cannot do it.
Come on, Katie. I see you will work on many ideas, many big products. This is just a starting for you. But yeah, I
Yeah.
can imagine the feeling that you're talking about. I see this energy in you as
Yeah.
well. And I wish you luck indeed. And I'm going to follow you and see what will be the result on this project and the other project that you're going to work. So let's have
Yeah.
a very short break and we will be right back. One of the skills that you developed very well over the years that you were working is how you start a communication, how you start a conversation. as you mentioned, cold emailing. How you call it?
Yeah, cold
Uh,
outreach.
cold outreach, basically. I guess that's something that you are doing very well, and let's maybe discuss about it a little bit more. Do you have any moment, any experience, any memory, anything that uh, you would like to show the importance of this skill?
Uh, the Getting conference tickets has always been a big that's one of the stories that I love to tell, because I think there's a lot of conferences, but it doesn't feel super accessible because they can be hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, especially for somebody who's just, yeah, like, breaking into tech, right? But it's so useful. Like, the people for whom it's the most useful sometimes have the biggest barriers to entry, which kinda sucks. So I remember when I first moved to San Francisco back in 2023, I really wanted to go to TechCrunch Disrupt, because I felt like that was the room where it happened, right? You see all these founders who get featured on Disrupt, the very famous pitch competition, right? I wanted to be there, but the problem was a single ticket was $300, and so I was like, man, like I don't want to pay $300 for a conference, so I did something a little unhinged. I literally went to the TechCrunch Disrupt website and I found all 100 sponsors and I LinkedIn messaged or LinkedIn sent a LinkedIn connection request to all of them. Like I didn't do any follow-ups. LinkedIn doesn't allow you, you just send a request and that's it. I didn't do any follow-ups. And lo and behold, a couple responded to me. One said yes and actually gave me 4 free tickets. So I was able to bring along 3 friends. So it just, and then I actually recently did something similar for TED AI. Really wanted to go. Of course, a lot of people have seen TED Talks. Really wanted to see what that was like in person in San Francisco. But the day before, I still didn't have a ticket because a single ticket was $1,900.
Wow.
And I was like, holy crap, like I don't have $1,900 right now just to spend as a founder. And so I went to the website, found all 50 speakers, and I messaged all of them, or sent a connection request. One of them responded literally the night of, and I was sitting front row at TED AI the morning after.
Wow.
So I think this just speaks to the power of cold outreach. If you're willing to like take on the physical cringe of like feeling like you're spamming a bunch of people, you can get a lot of things that you didn't think are attainable or accessible.
That was very interesting story. Like many people usually call people like you in these scenarios lucky. Uh, but when you see a little bit deeper, it's not just the luckiness or how you define the luckiness, huh?
Mhm.
I said this story before. I would like to repeat it as well again. That luckiness is basically your openness to new situation, new stuff. Huh? The more you are
Mhm.
open to things, then most probably you will be more lucky, so to say.
Yeah.
So as you mentioned,
Yeah.
this not being afraid of sending a message, cold outreaching, using this power, and then you get the result that maybe many people just stand back and say, "Hey, you are lucky." Huh? That's very
Yeah.
interesting. I will really work on this. I mean, I tried myself in some ways to do that.
Yeah.
You
I
need to
mean, even
accept that the
cold outreach.
failures are more than like the chance you fail is higher than you succeed. But nevertheless, you need to continue and try to reach out to more people, as you mentioned, until you get what you want. Sorry, I
Yeah.
interrupted you.
Oh, I was gonna say, I mean, for the audience, Kia reached out to me cold on LinkedIn, and he had clearly
You
done
are
his
used to
research.
it. That's why that's why you reacted well, and I appreciate it. But yeah, I'm doing that at some level. You know how many rejection, not rejection, how many messages I sent and I didn't get any response. Many, many.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you need to accept that, of course, you are doing this, which is the first step and very positive one and powerful. But this is also a learning process, how to increase the chance that you get the response. That's a learning curve that I'm going through. I guess everyone needs to go through it. And I know you are doing it very, very nicely. And so in this part, uh, I would like to take our focus a little bit toward the future. I, Maybe I would like to start from what you're doing at the moment, and then we get a little bit wider. now you're working on Press Club. What do you see for the future of this tool?
I was literally FaceTiming my mom yesterday, and I was super excited because we had landed our first official paying customer. We had landed him a feature. He runs a consumer electronics company. Landed him a feature on Apple Insider. So super excited about that. And she immediately was like, "Oh, like the." I was explaining the tool to her, like I was telling you about the process, the interview, the automation. Initially she was skeptical. She was like, "Well, can I just do it myself?" And I was like, "Well, sure, you can do it yourself. Send out 200 cold emails in one day." But it's hard, right? Like no human is born and is like, "I want to send out 200 cold emails every single day," right? And then she immediately was like, once she started to understand it, she was like, "Oh, you should totally like use this as a tool for students in China who want to get into colleges or get into like certain private schools." So yeah, I mean the applications are like limitless. There's so many use cases where I feel like people just need a little bit of a push and automation to send out cold emails or cold outreach, and you can get a lot of things that you didn't think were accessible. Whether that's, like Chinese students trying to get into certain schools, or founders trying to get published on like big news media outlets. So a ton of applications. We would categorize it generally as external communications. So anything where you need to externally reach out, yeah, I think that's kind of like the future, and we're super excited about that.
Oh, by the way, you didn't get any funding yet, am I right? Or
Not yet, not yet.
not yet? How big do you think you will get in next 5 years?
In the next 5 years, I mean, if everything goes super well, I mean, we could be like kind of like we would love to be the default like external communications agent. You're like, "Oh, I need to do some cold outreach. I need to get a conference ticket." Anything as simple as I need to get a conference ticket the next day to like something very big like, "Oh, I want to get in front of the president of the United States," right? Like you think of Press Club to as your agent to do that.
To be honest, now I really like the Press Club. As you mentioned, I mean, the practical use cases are limitless. You can basically use it for anything that you want to get in your life. Kind of, yeah. It's very nice. Yeah. Most probably, I will become your customer soon. Uh, and let's get back a little bit in your like personal way of working. How do you practically use AI in your work, in your life? Are you into this kind of stuff? I know the answer is yes, but
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, of course, I'll start with work. Like I said, like I did a challenge or 30 days of kind of building in public, and just creating something new every single day. I felt like there were so many AI tools, specifically prototyping tools out there these days, and I just you don't like there's never a time in my workday where I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna sit down and try out all of these," right? It doesn't come naturally. You kind of almost have to create like a time and space for it. So I was like, this is my
yeah,
way of creating that. And so I tried a ton of them, right? I initially was like a huge power user of Vercel, Lovable, and then we recently got introduced to like magic patterns, magic loops, base 44. So it's really exciting. And then like Figma's, what is Figma's again?
Figma Make.
Figma Make. Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I started using that a lot. So I mean, just like when as a designer specifically, it's insanely good with the ideation or like idea generation part. You got an idea and you have hesitations about it, like just build it out, right? I literally like at Snorkel, where we're used to a process where you do a week of prototyping and then a week of usability testing. But once these AI tools came out, literally like on the spot at a customer meeting, they wanted a new feature. I prototyped it in the middle of the meeting, and then I was like, "Is this what you mean?" Right? Where like if they had said no, like in the traditional process, then you go back to the drawing board and you like create a new
True.
one.
Yeah.
But like this is in real time, right? So it's really amazing for that kind of work. As for like final designs and all of that, it's not. I haven't. I think it'll get to that point, but it's just not at that point right now. So I'm excited for that, but right now the bulk of like work stuff for AI is mainly idea generation for me and validating and prototyping.
So basically vibe coding, huh? You're using mostly for vibe coding the
Mhm.
ideas you have. And if you want to name one of the best tool that you have worked and you're happy with the results, which one of them is your choice?
Actually, as a designer, because I can't speak to the quality of the code. I mean, I took
That we
the
don't care.
5 computer science classes. I took the 5 computer science classes back in the day in my senior year when I was struggling. So I can read code, I guess, but I don't want to. Yeah, so I'm not taking into account quality of code or security or anything like that. I'm purely speaking from a front end design perspective. The best tools by far, and for context, I literally like would run all 6 tools at the same time with the same prompt. So I've had my fair share of experiences with I mean, a lot of the AI
You did the
tools.
benchmarking
And
basically.
yeah, exactly, my own version of benchmarking. And by far, Figma Make and Lovable have consistently outperformed when it comes to design. So those nowadays, those are kind of my, if I have an idea, if I have something I want to like really validate really quickly with the customer, those are my go-to tools.
And what feature, like beside the consistency and the result that they are creating, is there any feature that you like the most in Lovable?
And Lovable, not a specific feature, it's just the
Yeah.
generation, like the speed of generation. Actually, I think when it comes to speed, Vercel might win, V0. But the quality, just the quality, like certain things they just understand. I guess when it comes to like spacing or like topography, if I don't specify something specific, and I rarely do because it's just an idea, right? I'm not thinking about the typography, but there are certain design guidelines, they just it's like baked in. Like and same with Figma Make. I would actually rank Figma Make above Lovable, which makes sense when it comes to like a design tool.
For me, it makes more sense because I'm using Figma Design. Like for the designers, you have a whole ecosystem that you can connect together and then work in one place. Lovable also, I like it, especially this feature that released recently that you can integrate AI powered kind of feature using the OpenAI model, if I'm not mistaken, without
Mm,
having to create APIs and everything. So everything is integrated within the Lovable. I'm not sure, I never use
yeah,
it, but I just hear that there is
yeah.
such a feature.
Oh,
Uh,
cool. I'm so curious, for Figma, do you bake in, I assume you have a design system, right, already in Figma? So when you use Figma Make, is the design system already baked in when you build the designs?
you need to export your design system within the Figma Make that it can understand
Mhm.
what kind of principle you have, like your variables, your stylings.
Yeah.
That's one approach which helps to increase the consistency and quality of the generated result. Plus, there's one file, I don't know the format actually, but they call it guideline, if I'm not mistaken, which you can find it in the
Mm,
file section in the Figma Make. In there, you can specify more detail about how to read the principles of
yeah.
your design system and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
giving more context, like any other generative AI model, the more
Mhm.
context you give, the consistency is better. Therefore, you can, I don't know, use documenting platform to document everything that you need to have in a consistent way and then fit the Figma Make as well. So these three possibility kind of help to increase the quality. But yeah, it's a limitless world of opportunities. You can do a lot of stuff now. Sometime I'm just sitting in 10 minutes, I make one tool that, as you mentioned, making the tool is not so important anymore, but being able to do the marketing and make the people to feel like they need it, that's most challenging part, I would say, from now on.
Yeah.
And your example is very interesting. You made your tool, like the digital part in half an hour, 1 hour with Lovable and other generative AI models. So
Yeah.
it's possible. And one question I usually ask everyone: do you think that the AI is going to replace human
Yeah, I mean,
as a designer? Let's say.
yeah. As a designer, honestly, I don't know. I mean, AI, if I think about AGI, I think that's like a whole nother thing. Like, and I think it will come. And then that brings up the whole philosophical question of like, because once we get there, then it's like, oh, you could literally just type in like, make me money, and it'll make you money. And then what's the point of working anymore? And brings up the philosophical question of then what's the point of life for humans? But like as of right now, I mean, I think I hear a lot of people say this, like it's the AI is a collaborator, a thought partner, and it won't replace humans. But I mean, I think it's already replaced a lot of like trivial or like a lot of stuff that's like repetitive, right? Like automation. I mean, that a lot of that doesn't even necessarily require AI. We found it's so interesting because my co-founder he was trying to automate everything. He was trying to like embed AI into everything. He was like, actually, I realized I was forcing AI into some stuff. I just like a lot of stuff just requires like traditional code slash automation, which is interesting. Like some people just try to like stick AI into everything. It doesn't work. Like just use traditional ML. So, anyways, yeah, I mean, I am of the opinion that right now it's a collaborator and a thought partner, and that's the best way to think of it. I almost a good mental model for me has always been AI being an intern. Like it will produce it will put out what you put in, right? So like what if you're a good manager of an intern, your intern can produce like amazing, excellent results. But if you just right off the bat don't give the intern any context and you don't help them out and give them access to the things that they need, then it's gonna produce shitty work. Like that's just how it is.
But you mentioned this keyword right now, so I just want to know if you feel like, because I mean, let's be honest. What you mentioned, the AI is
Yeah.
already not the AI itself, but the way that we are using AI
Yeah.
is replacing humans in some places. I
Yeah.
heard here and there a lot that, for example, some companies now have night shift, which AI basically
Mhm.
is working instead of a human to do
Yeah.
to analyze the tickets they have, to take part that they can already work on them, and then just in the morning humans
Yeah.
going to monitor. So it's basically automation in a massive scale.
Mhm.
Do you think still designers have this privilege to stay in work, or are they going to get replaced as well?
Yeah. I think anything creative will have a place because I think at the heart of being creative is like emotional expression. And so for I'll give you a very specific example. Like people are like, "Oh, what's the future of music? Is it going to be completely replaced by AI?" And there was this whole thing on TikTok about one of the most popular trending TikTok sounds was actually AI.
Hmm.
And for me personally, I'm like, I really don't care. Like it sounds good, I'm good, right? But then a
Yeah.
lot of people are mad about it. And I think it's like, yes, a lot of music is I think like in the future there will be more AI generated music. Like that's just how it's gonna be. Um, and people will enjoy listening to it. But then like there's still somebody behind the AI, right? Like somebody's like
For now,
figuring
at
out
least.
what they have. Yeah, I guess for now. Um, but I still feel like people like go to they don't go to concerts just to listen to the music. They go like because of a like established emotional connection with the artist. You know what I mean? Yeah, and like people who are true fans, your super fans, top 1%, like they know everything about the artist. Like they'll watch their vlogs, their YouTube, TikToks. It's not just about the music for them, right? So there's like human connection at the end of it, and humans will crave it. And I don't know. Maybe there'll be like AI avatars, but still, even then, like AI avatars can't have a full like life story, right, to follow. So
True.
I just
True.
don't think in that aspect it'll be that human connection that other like people crave in general is going to be replaced.
That's remind me like one thing that Jack Michelle said in the first episode for our listeners or anybody who's watching to this episode. If you haven't watched that episode, please don't forget to check out my channel YouTube and Spotify. He mentioned that there is one feeling in a human that maybe make it hard to get replaced by AI, which is the fact that humans like to get credit for the things. We like to say, we did that. This is our work, And even AI can do this stuff, still we will fight to get the credibility to say, that's what I made. And this kind of feeling is something maybe doesn't let us to create or automate everything. Maybe we do it at some point, but it was a very interesting perspective. So, Kathy, thank you very much. It was a very nice talk. Just let me know if there is anything that you would like to mention. If not, I would like to ask one question. How was Now Next? Is there something you think I should
Yeah.
do more, I should improve, or something
Yeah.
missing? How was your
It
experience?
was great. It was great. I think like well, for the audience, Kia sent me like a list of questions, just like kind of discussion guideline, and I was just like thinking about all of the questions, and it was really good it was a really good thought exercise for me. I will say, like, I have it in my Notion now, and so one, it'll be nice to reflect back because AI is changing so quickly. It'll be nice to reflect on my own thoughts and like reflect back on this podcast, and maybe like a lot of my opinions will be like outdated by like, I guess, by the market, but also by my personal opinions. Like, I'll be like, oh my gosh, I no longer like think that or agree with that, right? And that's okay. But it's really cool to get this kind of like moment in time of like what I was feeling and what I was thinking at this time. So yeah. And then also a lot of these thoughts that I've like now like have in my head, I'm like, oh, that's a great LinkedIn post. So even more idea generation for my LinkedIn posts. Yeah. So this is
Great to hear. Great. You have some material now.
great.
But yeah, what you mentioned is actually a good sign. If I hear this somewhere in another podcast, the podcast name is Level 16, if I'm not mistaken, and it's a Persian podcast. One guy was saying that if you don't get back to what you said before and you don't laugh at them, that means either you reached to that level so late that you were so complete, or you didn't develop. So it's very normal and natural. You get back to what you did in past and say, "Oh, I could do better. What is that?" And the last thing I usually ask everybody, who else do you want to see Now Next? Do you want to invite somebody or in your network, or even if it's not in your network, do you want to bring a name? Feel free to say it now. If you want, you also can share with me later.
Yeah. I mean, in my network, the person that comes to mind immediately, Ben Blumenrose, at Designer Fund. He's a big proponent of having more design founders, and he's also the initial inspiration behind that LinkedIn post that I wrote that sparked a lot of discussion in the design community. Yeah, so I think he would make for a great podcast guest. And yeah, I'll let you know if I think of anybody else in the design space.
Great. Thank you. I will try to reach out to him. Thank you for being here. It was very, very nice talk, and it was a very pleasure to meet you in person. It's always interesting for me to have a personal level talk and chat, regardless if it's going to get recorded or not. I used to have this kind of chat, and now I started to record it and share it with everybody.
I love it. I
For
love it. I
those
love it.
who are listening to us or watching in different channel to us, if they want to reach out to you, if they want to uh, know more about you, which channels do you want to introduce here? Which channels you want to share with them?
Yeah, so LinkedIn, just search my name. It'll be in the description below.
Kathy Wang.
And then TikTok, yeah. TikTok, the Kathy Wang. Um, yeah, those are, and then Press Club, just pressclub.app is the website. But I check my LinkedIn daily for sure, if not by the hour. Although I haven't checked it at all during this podcast. So I'm very active there. You can just reach out to me there. And also, I just want to say this is my first ever podcast. Very nervous, but you're very good, Kia. So
Thank you for accepting my invitation. I will leave all the links that you have in the description of the video
yeah.
or the voice version that you can find under this in the description of this episode. Any last word?
I mean, just in when it comes to cold outreach, just do it. Like, don't be scared of rejection. I think in general, designers just need to up their marketing and sales muscles. So you always gotta carry forward. Oh, actually, I will end with this quote: "Life will meet you at the level of your audacity." I read that quote one time, and it has really stuck with me.
The best way to finish this episode. Thanks for everyone to listening and watching to us. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel in your favorite podcast platform. See you in the next episode.